The gavel came down like thunder. Every head in the courtroom turned toward me. The prosecutor's mouth fell open. My own lawyer froze mid-breath. Even Judge Morrison's eyes went wide behind her glasses. My brother Devin stood at the defense table, his tailored suit suddenly looking 2 sizes too big. And my mother, sitting in the front row where she'd sat for every single day of his trial, her hand flew to her mouth like she'd been struck. But none of them knew what I'd been building for the past 18 months. The evidence I'd collected. The witnesses I'd found. The truth I'd buried so deep they never thought to look for it. If you've ever been the scapegoat in your own family, the one blamed for everything while the golden child walks free, stay with me. Because this is how I stopped running from their lies and started running toward justice. My name is Jordan Castellano. For 26 years, I was the problem child in a family that worshipped perfection. Devin was born first. 3 years before me. 3 years of being the miracle baby, the answered prayer, the son who could do no wrong. By the time I arrived, all the glory had been claimed. All the light in the room already belonged to him. Our father, Michael Castellano, owned Castellano and Associates, a mid-sized law firm in downtown Seattle that had been in the family for 2 generations. Devin was always meant to inherit it. From the time he could walk, Dad had him in tiny suits for family photos. Called him my little lawyer. Brought him to the office on weekends to sit in the big leather chair. I was 7 when I asked if I could come to the office too. Dad looked up from his briefcase, distracted. Maybe when you're older, Jordan. Devin's at a critical learning stage right now. Devin was 10. I never got invited again. Mom, Catherine Castellano, was a family court mediator. Ironic, considering she couldn't mediate anything in her own home. She had this way of smoothing over every conflict by making it disappear. Usually by making me disappear. Devin broke the kitchen window playing baseball inside. Jordan, why weren't you watching your brother? Devin got caught cheating on his high school Spanish final. Jordan probably distracted him. Devin's under so much pressure. Devin wrecked Dad's car joyriding at 16. Well, Jordan, if you'd been a better influence, maybe he wouldn't have felt the need to act out. I learned early that in the Castellano family, there were 2 roles, the golden child and the sin eater. Devin got to shine. I got to absorb the blame. When I was 14, I joined the debate team. Won regionals. Made it to state finals. The day of the championship, Devin had a college campus tour at Cornell, his dream school. Dad's dream school. The family legacy school. You understand, don't you, Jordan? Mom said, already putting on her coat. This tour could determine Devin's entire future. I took the bus to state finals alone. Won 2nd place. Came home to find them celebrating Devin's campus tour with takeout from his favorite restaurant. How was your thing? Mom asked absently. I got 2nd in the state. That's nice, honey. She was already turning back to Devin's Cornell brochure. The pattern crystallized in high school. Devin got straight A's. Or rather, Dad's money bought him straight A's through private tutors and extra credit opportunities that looked suspiciously like donations. I worked 2 part-time jobs to save for college because you need to learn independence, Jordan. Devin got into Cornell pre-law. Full support. Dad's old fraternity connections greasing every wheel. I got into University of Washington's criminal justice program on academic scholarship. They came to my graduation. Left early for Devin's Cornell send-off party. I thought distance would help. It didn't. At UW, I found something I was good at, really good at. Forensic accounting. The intersection of law, mathematics, and investigation. While Devin was networking at Cornell Mixers, I was learning how to track money through shell corporations, how to find evidence in spreadsheets, how to build cases that couldn't be torn apart. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. My professors noticed. Dr. Rebecca Kim pulled me aside after class one day during my junior year. Have you considered the FBI Financial Crimes Unit? You have a talent for this, Jordan. I laughed. Pretty sure my family expects me to work mall security. Your family, she said carefully, doesn't get to define your ceiling. That conversation changed everything. I graduated summa cum laude, got recruited by the King County Prosecutor's Office, started as a junior forensic analyst, hunting for financial evidence in fraud cases. I was good at it, meticulous, patient, the kind of investigator who found things other people missed. Within 3 years, I made senior analyst. Started testifying in court as an expert witness. Helped secure convictions in cases everyone said were unwinnable. Devin graduated Cornell. Moved home. Joined Castellano and Associates as a junior associate. Dad threw him a party at the Seattle Yacht Club. Posted photos on Facebook with captions like, "The future of Castellano law." I wasn't in any of the pictures. By my mid-20s, I'd built a reputation. Prosecutors across Washington requested me specifically for complex financial cases. Defense attorneys hated seeing my name on the witness list because they knew I didn't miss details. Devin built a reputation too. The charming young lawyer who closed deals over golf games and wine tastings. Dad's pride and joy. The heir apparent. We existed in parallel universes. His world was country clubs and client dinners. Mine was evidence rooms and courthouse basements. I was fine with that. I'd stopped needing their approval. Stopped attending family dinners where I was invisible. Stopped answering Mom's calls that only came when she needed something. I had my own life, my own success, my own proof that I wasn't the problem child they'd labeled me. Then everything caught fire. The call came on a Tuesday morning in March. I was reviewing bank statements for an embezzlement case when my phone lit up. "Mom." I almost didn't answer. "Jordan." Her voice cracked. "Something terrible has happened." My stomach dropped. "Is someone hurt?" "No. Worse." She was crying. "The FBI raided your father's firm this morning. They're accusing Devin of," her voice broke completely, "money laundering. Jordan, they're saying Devin laundered money for criminals." The world tilted. "That's impossible," I said automatically. "Devin's not, he wouldn't." "Of course he wouldn't." Mom's voice turned sharp with desperation. "This is obviously a mistake. A terrible, malicious mistake. Which is why we need you." "Need me?" "You work with prosecutors. You understand how these investigations work. You can help us prove this is wrong. You can fix this, Jordan. You have to fix this." After 26 years of being the problem, suddenly I was the solution. I took emergency leave, drove to my parents' house in Bellevue. The circular driveway was full of cars, Dad's partners from the firm, Uncle Richard and Susan. The whole family had mobilized. Inside, Devin sat on the couch, looking shell-shocked. For the first time in my life, he looked small. Dad stood by the window, his posture rigid with fury. "Those FBI bastards. 17 years I've built that firm's reputation. 17 years of ethical practice, and they storm in like we're running a drug cartel." "What exactly are they alleging?" I asked. Devin's lawyer, Marcus Finch, a criminal defense attorney Dad hired within hours, pulled out a folder. They claimed Devin facilitated the movement of funds for an organized crime syndicate. Roughly $4.2 million laundered through client trust accounts over the past 14 months. I sat down slowly. $4.2 million? Which is absurd, Marcus said firmly. Devin's practice focuses on real estate transactions and small business law. He doesn't handle criminal clients. This is clearly mistaken identity or falsified evidence. I looked at Devin. He was staring at his hands. "Devin," I said. He looked up. His eyes were wet. "I didn't know, Jordan. I swear to God, I didn't know what they were really doing." The room went silent. Who was really doing? I asked carefully. "My clients. The real estate investors. They said," his voice cracked, "they said it was all legitimate. Property investments. I was just processing the transactions like I always do." Something cold settled in my chest. "Which clients?" Marcus held up a hand. "Devin doesn't need to get into specifics right now." "Yes," I said flatly. "He does." Devin looked at Dad. Dad looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at me like I was the problem. "The Volkov Group," Devin said quietly. "Dmitry Volkov. He approached me 18 months ago. Said he was expanding his property portfolio in Seattle. Needed legal help with transactions. Dmitry Volkov. I'd seen that name. In briefings. In case files. In federal watch lists. "Devin," I said slowly. "Dmitry Volkov runs the largest organized crime operation in the Pacific Northwest." "I didn't know that." Devin's voice rose. He presented as a legitimate businessman. References. Properties. Everything looked legal. Looked legal. My voice came out sharper than I intended. You didn't do due diligence, didn't check his background, didn't question why he was moving millions through residential real estate transactions. Don't interrogate your brother, Mom said sharply. He made a mistake. An innocent mistake. This is exactly why we need you to help. I stared at her. At Devin. At Dad. Help how? You understand forensic evidence, Dad said. You know how prosecutors build cases. You can help Marcus develop a defense strategy. Show them Devin was an unwitting participant. Unwitting. $4.2 million. 14 months of transactions. I need to see the evidence, I said. The FBI had been meticulous. The case file Marcus obtained through discovery was 300 pages of financial records, wire transfers, email chains, and transaction logs. Every single document pointed to one conclusion. Devin knew exactly what he was doing. I spent 3 days locked in my apartment, going through everything with the precision that had made me good at my job. The Volkov transaction started small. $50,000 here. $75,000 there. Real estate purchases that could technically be legitimate. Devin processed them through Castellano and Associates client trust account, standard practice for a real estate lawyer. But by month 6, the amounts jumped. $500,000. $800,000. Properties purchased and sold within weeks. No real occupancy. No legitimate business purpose. Classic money laundering patterns. And the emails. God, the emails. Devin to Volkov. Process the Pine Street transaction. Funds clean and ready for your next acquisition. Volkov to Devin. Excellent work. Same process for the Bellevue property. Speed is essential. Devin to Volkov. Understood. Will expedite. Additional fee structure discussed earlier still applies. He knew. Every email, every transaction, every expedited processing request, Devin knew he was laundering money. And he was charging premium fees to do it. I sat back in my chair, the evidence spread across my dining room table like accusatory witnesses. My phone rang. Dad. Well. His voice was tight with expectation. Have you found the holes in their case? There are no holes, I said. Their case is airtight. Silence. That's impossible, Dad said finally. You're not looking hard enough. I've been looking for 72 hours straight. Devin is guilty, Dad. The evidence is overwhelming. Don't say that. Dad's voice cracked with fury. You don't say that about family. You find a way to help him. There is no way. He committed multiple felonies. Then you create a way. Dad was yelling now. You work with prosecutors. You know how they think. Help Marcus build a defense that creates reasonable doubt. The request crystallized. Not help prove Devin's innocence. Help create doubt about his guilt. You're asking me to help him get away with it, I said. I'm asking you to save your brother's life. Dad shouted. He's looking at 15 years in federal prison. 15 years, Jordan. I will not let that happen to my son. My son. Not our son. Not your brother. The distinction was surgical. Precise. Exactly what I'd always been to them. Like this video if you're ready for what happened next. No, I said quietly. What? No. I won't help Devin avoid consequences for crimes he committed. The line went dead. 20 minutes later, Mom called. Then Aunt Susan. Then Uncle Richard. A coordinated assault. All saying the same thing in different words. Family protects family. Blood is thicker than law. How can you abandon Devin when he needs you most? I blocked them all. Then I made a different call. Assistant Director Sarah Chun of the FBI's Seattle Financial Crimes Unit answered on the second ring. Jordan Castellano. I haven't heard from you in 6 months. How's the prosecutor's office treating you? I need to talk to you about the Castellano case. The line went quiet. When she spoke again, her voice had shifted to careful neutrality. You know I can't discuss an active investigation, especially one involving your family. I'm not asking you to discuss it, I said. I'm offering to help you build it. Another pause. Longer this time. Meet me at the federal building. 1 hour. Come alone. Sarah's office overlooked Elliott Bay. Rain streaked the windows, turning the city gray and indistinct. She sat across from me, a legal pad in front of her, pen poised but not moving. Before we go any further, she said, I need to understand what you're offering and why. My brother is guilty. The evidence you have proves it. But there's more you haven't found yet. Her eyes sharpened. More. Devin wasn't working alone. He couldn't have been. The transaction volume, the complexity of the shell corporations, the international wire transfers. He's a mediocre lawyer who barely passed the bar exam on his third try. Someone was guiding him. Someone with expertise. You think someone at the firm was involved? I think someone is the firm. I pulled out my laptop, opened the files I'd spent the last 18 hours compiling. My father, Michael Castellano, has signature authority on every client trust account. He reviews every transaction over $100,000. Firm policy, established 15 years ago after a junior associate nearly got them disbarred for mishandling funds. I turned the laptop toward her. Bank records, internal firm memos, signature logs. Devin processed $4.2 million through those accounts over 14 months. Every single transaction required my father's review and approval. There's no way Devin was doing this without Dad's knowledge. And if Dad knew, I met her eyes. Then this isn't a case about one corrupt lawyer. It's about a corrupt firm using family legacy as cover for organized crime. Sarah studied the screen. Her pen started moving. Why are you bringing this to me? She asked quietly. This will destroy your family. My family destroyed itself, I said. I'm just making sure the evidence doesn't get buried. She looked at me for a long moment. If you're wrong about your father, if this is just Devin, you'll have made allegations that could derail the entire case. I'm not wrong. How can you be certain? I pulled up another file. Email records I'd obtained through a contact at the firm. A paralegal named Lisa Chun who'd watched Devin's rapid rise with growing suspicion and finally decided to trust me with what she'd found. The emails were from Dad's private account, not the firm's server. Encrypted, deleted monthly. But Lisa had been backing them up to an external drive for 6 months. Insurance against the day she might need proof that she tried to sound the alarm. Michael Castellano to Dmitry Volkov. Devin has processed the Tacoma transaction. Funds are clean. Ready for the next phase of your Vancouver expansion. Volkov to Michael. Your son is efficient, but I prefer working directly with you. The next transaction will be $2 million. Can you handle it personally? Michael to Volkov. Devin is my buffer. He handles the transactions. I ensure they clear review. This structure protects us both. Trust the system. Sarah read in silence. When she looked up, her expression had hardened into something prosecutorial. Where did you get these? A source inside the firm. Someone who was afraid to come forward until now. This source, are they willing to testify? With immunity and witness protection. Yes. Sarah closed the laptop, pushed it back toward me. You understand what you're doing? Once we start pulling this thread, there's no stopping it. Your father will be charged. The firm will be dismantled. Your family's name will be synonymous with corruption. Good, I said. They earned it. The next 4 months became a masterclass in controlled demolition. Sarah brought me into the investigation as a confidential consultant. My knowledge of financial forensics and the firm's internal operations made me invaluable. I helped them trace shell corporations back to Volkov's network, identified patterns in the transaction, timing that revealed coordination, built timeline models that showed exactly when Dad became involved. Lisa Chun entered witness protection. Her testimony would be the nail in the coffin, a first-hand witness to meetings between Dad and Volkov, to destroy documents, to explicit instructions about how to structure transactions to avoid detection. But I couldn't just build the case. I had to protect it. Devin's lawyer, Marcus Finch, was good, expensive, connected. If he suspected the FBI had expanded their investigation to include Dad, he'd advise both of them to destroy evidence, create false paper trails, maybe even flee jurisdiction. So I did something that felt like betrayal and justice in equal measure. I called my mother. Jordan. Her voice was cold. I'm surprised you're speaking to us. I want to help Devin, I said. Silence. Suspicious silence. What changed? She asked carefully. I've been reviewing the evidence. There might be a way to argue he was acting under duress, that someone was pressuring him to process these transactions. It was close enough to the truth to sound believable. Devin was acting under pressure from Dad. Who would have been pressuring him? Mom asked. I need to do more digging. But Mom, if this is going to work, I need you to trust me. And I need Devin and Dad to stop destroying documents. We're not destroying anything. Uncle Richard mentioned Dad was shredding old files last week. Mom, if the FBI thinks you're destroying evidence, it will make everything worse. Tell Dad to stop. Tell Devin to preserve everything. Every email, every document, every backup. If we're going to prove someone else was pulling the strings, we need the full paper trail. The logic was flawless. The trap was invisible. I'll tell them, Mom said. Her voice had warmed slightly. Jordan, I'm glad you're coming around. Family is everything. Yeah, I said. It is. They stopped shredding, stopped deleting, preserved everything, including the evidence that would convict them. I spent those 4 months living in 2 worlds. In one world, I was the dutiful daughter who'd returned to the fold. I attended family dinners again, sat through strategy sessions with Marcus Finch, nodded sympathetically while Devin talked about the injustice of his prosecution. In the other world, I was in the federal building, working with Sarah's team, turning my family's secrets into a federal case. My friend Kira, a journalist with the Seattle Times who I'd met through work, was the only person who knew the truth. We'd grab coffee once a week, and I'd decompress in the only space where I didn't have to perform. You're doing the right thing, she said one evening. We were in a corner booth at a cafe in Capitol Hill, rain drumming against the windows. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you are. It feels like I'm destroying everything, I said. No. Kira's voice was firm. They destroyed it. You're just making sure there's consequences. The indictments came down on a Tuesday in October. Devin was arrested at home. Dad was arrested at the office. Federal agents walked them both out in handcuffs in front of news cameras Sarah had carefully tipped off. The charges were extensive: money laundering, conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice. Devin faced 47 counts. Dad faced 63. My phone exploded. Mom, Uncle Richard, Aunt Susan, cousins, family friends, all of them screaming the same questions. How did this happen? Why didn't you stop this? How could you let them arrest your father? I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I drove to the federal building and met Sarah in her office. It's done, she said. Both of them arraigned. Both denied bail as flight risks. Trial date set for March. March, I repeated. 5 months away. Jordan. Sarah's voice gentled. You should prepare yourself. This trial is going to be brutal. Your family will know you helped build this case. They'll come after you publicly. Let them, I said. I have something they don't. What's that? The truth. The trial began on March 3rd, Judge Elizabeth Morrison presiding. The federal courthouse in Seattle was packed, media in every available seat, sketch artists positioned for optimal angles, my family clustered on the defense side like they were attending a funeral. Mom sat in the front row, directly behind Dad and Devin. Her face was carefully composed, but her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. Uncle Richard flanked her on one side, Aunt Susan on the other. A wall of Castellanos presenting unified denial. I sat on the prosecution side, alone. The looks they gave me when I walked in could have stripped paint. Mom's expression crumbled from composed grief into something raw and accusatory. Uncle Richard actually stood up, like he might physically remove me, before Aunt Susan pulled him back down. Devin stared at me across the courtroom aisle. His expensive suit couldn't hide how much weight he'd lost during 5 months in federal detention. For the first time in our lives, he looked at me like I was real. Like I mattered. Like I was dangerous. Dad wouldn't look at me at all. The prosecution's opening statement was delivered by Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Kim. No relation to my professor, but equally brilliant. She laid out the case with surgical precision. The timeline, the transaction volumes, the shell corporations, the explicit coordination with the Volkov crime syndicate. The defense will try to convince you that Devin Castellano was an unwitting pawn, Rachel said, her voice carrying through the courtroom. That he was a naive young lawyer who didn't understand what he was processing. But the evidence will show you something very different. It will show you a deliberate, calculated operation. And it will show you that this operation didn't start with Devin Castellano. It was designed, orchestrated, and protected by his father, Michael Castellano, a man who used his law firm's reputation as camouflage for criminal enterprise. Marcus Finch stood for the defense. His strategy was predictable. Devon was young, inexperienced, manipulated by sophisticated criminals, and the new element, pressured by an overbearing father who threatened his career if he didn't comply. Devon Castellano is a victim, Marcus said. A victim of organized crime, and a victim of a family dynamic that demanded perfection at any cost. Throwing Dad under the bus to save Devon. Classic defense strategy when you have two defendants with conflicting interests. The first week was financial evidence. FBI agents testifying about wire transfers and shell corporations. Expert witnesses explaining money laundering patterns. It was technical, dense, the kind of testimony that makes juries glaze over. But I knew what was coming in week 2. Lisa Chun took the stand on Monday morning. The paralegal who'd worked at Castellano and Associates for 8 years looked small in the witness box, but her voice was steady as Rachel walked her through her testimony. I started noticing irregularities in 2022, Lisa said. Large transactions that didn't match the client profiles. Real estate deals that seemed to close too quickly. Mr. Devon Castellano working late nights on files that weren't on the official case management system. Did you raise these concerns? Rachel asked. Yes. I went to Mr. Michael Castellano, the managing partner. I thought he should know what his son was handling. What did Mr. Michael Castellano say? Lisa's hands tightened on the edge of the witness box. He told me Devon was working on sensitive client matters, that the transactions were legitimate, and that if I valued my job, I would stop asking questions. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Judge Morrison's gavel cracked once. Did his response concern you? Rachel asked. It terrified me, Lisa said quietly, because it meant he already knew, and he was choosing to let it continue. Marcus cross-examined aggressively, trying to paint Lisa as a disgruntled employee with an axe to grind. But she didn't break, didn't waver. Her testimony stood like a pillar supporting the prosecution's entire theory. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway. You bitch. Mom's voice shook with rage. That paralegal is lying. We treated her like family, and you coached her to destroy us. I didn't coach anyone, I said. I just made sure the truth could be heard. The truth. Mom's laugh was bitter. The truth is you've always been jealous of Devon. Always resented that he was special. And now you're using the law to destroy him because you couldn't compete. Devon destroyed himself, I said quietly. I just documented it. You're dead to us, Mom hissed. Do you understand? When this is over, when Devon and your father are acquitted, you will never be welcome in this family again. Good, I said. I was never really part of it anyway. I hung up. Week 3 brought the emails. The prosecution entered Dad's encrypted correspondence into evidence. Every message between him and Volkov. Every instruction to Devon. Every carefully worded directive that showed he wasn't just aware of the money laundering, he was orchestrating it. The defense tried to argue the emails were taken out of context. That funds are clean meant legally clean, not criminally laundered. That Devon is my buffer referred to client communication, not criminal liability. The jury didn't buy it. I watched their faces as Rachel walked them through each email, each timestamp, each damning phrase. I watched skepticism harden into certainty. Watched them look at Dad and Devon with the same cold calculation I'd used when reviewing the evidence. On Thursday of week 3, the prosecution called their final witness. The United States calls Jordan Castellano. The courtroom went silent. I stood, walked to the witness box. My legs felt steady. My hands didn't shake. I'd been preparing for this moment for 6 months. The court clerk held out the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. I sat, found Mom's face in the gallery. She was crying, but her expression held pure hatred. Rachel approached with her legal pad. Ms. Castellano, can you describe your professional background? I'm a senior forensic analyst with the King County Prosecutor's Office. I specialize in financial crimes investigation. And you're also the sister of defendant Devon Castellano and the daughter of defendant Michael Castellano? Yes. When did you first become aware of the allegations against your brother? I walked through it chronologically. The phone call from Mom. My initial review of the evidence. The moment I realized Devon was guilty. The moment I realized Dad was involved. What did you do with that information? Rachel asked. I contacted the FBI and offered to assist their investigation. The gallery erupted. Judge Morrison's gavel came down hard. Order! Marcus was on his feet. Objection. The witness's actions constitute a clear conflict of interest. Overruled, Judge Morrison said crisply. The witness's expertise is relevant regardless of family relationship. Continue, Miss Kim. Rachel turned back to me. Why did you choose to assist the FBI investigation against your own family? The question hung in the air. This was the moment, the one I'd been rehearsing. Because, I said clearly, the evidence showed systematic criminal activity. And because for my entire life, my family has operated under the belief that Devon and my father are above consequences, that their reputation matters more than the law, that loyalty means covering up crimes. I looked directly at Dad. I chose the law. Did your family ask you to help them avoid prosecution? Yes. My father specifically asked me to help Devon create reasonable doubt about his guilt, even though the evidence of his crimes was overwhelming. Marcus was up again. Objection. Hearsay. The witness is testifying to conversations she directly participated in, Rachel countered. Overruled, Judge Morrison said. Answer the question, Ms. Castellano. My father said, and I quote, "You work with prosecutors. Help Marcus build a defense that creates reasonable doubt." He wasn't asking me to prove Devon's innocence. He was asking me to help him avoid accountability for crimes he committed. I watched Dad's face flush red, watched him lean over to whisper urgently to Marcus. The cross-examination was brutal. Marcus tried every angle. Family betrayal, professional jealousy, misinterpretation of evidence, bias against my brother. He painted me as the bitter younger sibling who'd finally found a weapon to destroy the family that had overshadowed her. Isn't it true, Miss Castellano, that you've always resented your brother's success? No, I said evenly. I resented being blamed for his failures. Isn't it true that you saw this investigation as an opportunity for revenge? No, I saw it as an opportunity for justice. You're willing to send your own father to prison? I looked at Dad, at Devon, at Mom crying in the gallery. I'm willing to let them face the consequences of their choices, I said. Something my family never taught me was possible. The justice payoff. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. I spent that time in a conference room at the Federal Building, drinking bad coffee and staring at the Seattle skyline. Sarah sat with me. Didn't try to fill the silence with meaningless reassurance. My phone buzzed once. A text from Kira, "You did the right thing. Regardless of what happens, you did the right thing." When the call came that the jury had reached a verdict, I felt oddly calm. The courtroom was even more packed than before. Word had spread. The gallery overflowed with reporters, legal professionals, people who'd followed the case and wanted to witness the conclusion. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years. Uncle Richard sat stone-faced. Aunt Susan dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Devon's hands trembled as he stood. Dad stood beside him, spine straight, face carved from granite, refusing to show weakness even now. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Morrison asked. The jury foreperson stood, a middle-aged woman with steel-gray hair and an accountant's precise manner. We have, Your Honor, in the matter of United States versus Devon Castellano, on the charge of money laundering in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty! Mom's sob cut through the courtroom. On the charge of conspiracy to commit money laundering, guilty. On the charge of wire fraud, guilty. 47 counts. Guilty on every single one. Devon sat down heavily. His lawyer touched his shoulder. He didn't seem to register it. In the matter of United States versus Michael Castellano, on the charge of money laundering in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty. Dad's face didn't change. Didn't register the word. Didn't acknowledge the verdict. 63 counts. Guilty on every single one. Judge Morrison set sentencing for 6 weeks out. Both defendants were remanded into custody immediately. Federal marshals moved forward to take them from the defense table. I watched Devon stand. Watched the marshal place handcuffs on his wrists. Watched him look back at Mom one last time before they led him toward the side door. Then Dad stood. He looked across the courtroom. Found me. For the first time in 6 months, he looked directly at me. His expression held no remorse, no acknowledgement of guilt, just cold, absolute fury. The look of a man who'd finally realized his scapegoat had become his judge. I held his gaze, didn't look away, didn't flinch. The marshal cuffed him, led him away, and I watched the door close behind them both. The sentencing hearing was perfunctory. Devin got 15 years in federal prison. Dad got 22. Mom didn't attend. Neither did Uncle Richard or Aunt Susan or any of the extended family who'd filled the gallery during the trial. The defense side of the courtroom was empty except for Marcus Finch and his associate. The prosecution side had one occupant, me. When it was over, I walked out of the courthouse into unexpected sunshine. Seattle's perpetual gray had broken just long enough for me to feel the warmth on my face. Sarah met me on the steps. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and meant it. Kira was waiting at the bottom of the steps with coffee. "Front page of the Seattle Times tomorrow," she said. "Financial crimes prosecutor helps convict her own family. You're going to be famous for all the wrong reasons." "Or all the right ones," Sarah said. My phone buzzed. An email from the Washington State Bar Association Ethics Committee. I opened it, half expecting some complaint Marcus had filed in a last-ditch effort to discredit my testimony. Instead, the Bar Association wishes to commend your ethical conduct during United States versus Castellano. Your commitment to justice over familial loyalty represents the highest standards of our profession. I read it twice, then handed my phone to Sarah. She smiled. "See, the right reasons." My new apartment overlooks Puget Sound from the Queen and neighborhood. Smaller than what I could afford, but the view makes it worth every penny. I watch the ferries cross the water while I drink my morning coffee. No family photos on the walls. No Castellano legacy artifacts. Just my framed bar admission certificate, my forensic accounting credentials, and a photo of me with Sarah and Kira at my promotion celebration. I was promoted to Chief Forensic Analyst 2 months ago, the youngest person to ever hold the position in King County. The King County prosecutor specifically mentioned my unwavering commitment to justice during the announcement. The Seattle Times called me the prosecutor who chose law over blood. Legal ethics professors are using the Castellano case as a teaching example of professional responsibility. I declined every media interview except one. Kira wrote a long-form piece for the Times about growing up as the scapegoat child, about systematic family dysfunction, about the moment you realize you have to save yourself because no one else will. It went viral. I got letters, hundreds of them, from other scapegoats, other people who'd spent their lives absorbing blame for golden children, other people who'd finally chosen themselves over family mythology. One letter came from inside the Federal Correctional Institution in Sheridan, Oregon. Devin's handwriting. I recognized it immediately. I almost threw it away. Then I opened it. "Jordan, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything from you. But I need you to know that you were right. I spent 29 years believing Dad when he said rules didn't apply to us. That consequences were for other people. That family loyalty meant protecting each other from accountability. Prison gives you a lot of time to think, to see patterns you ignored, to realize the person you became. Dad still believes he did nothing wrong. He's appealing, filing motions, convinced the system failed him. He'll die in here believing he was the victim. I don't want to be him. I don't expect forgiveness. But I'm sorry for every time I let you take blame that was mine, for every achievement I stole, for every moment you were invisible while I soaked up the spotlight. You were always the better lawyer, the better investigator, the better person. I just hope someday you can believe that you were right to let me fall. Devin." I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll write back. Maybe I won't. For now, the acknowledgement is enough. I'm at my desk when Sarah knocks on my door. "Got a case for you. Real estate fraud ring in Tacoma. Complex shell corporation structure. Prosecutor specifically requested you." I pull up the file. Start reading. The patterns emerge quickly. Suspicious transactions, layered ownership, money moving through carefully designed channels. It's what I'm good at. Finding the truth in numbers. Building cases that hold up under scrutiny. Making sure that people who think they're above consequences discover they're not. My phone rings. Unknown number. I consider not answering. Then I do. Is this Jordan Castellano? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Yes. My name is Dr. Rebecca Kim. I'm a professor at UW. I teach forensic accounting, and I wondered if you'd be willing to guest lecture. My students would benefit enormously from hearing about the Castellano case, about the ethical dimensions of financial investigation. Dr. Kim, the professor who told me my family didn't get to define my ceiling. I'd be honored, I say. The lecture hall is packed. 80 students, all looking at me with varying degrees of curiosity, skepticism, and interest. I don't have slides. Don't need them. My name is Jordan Castellano, I say, and I helped convict my father and brother of money laundering. I'm here to talk about what happens when family loyalty conflicts with professional ethics. When the people you're supposed to trust are the people you need to investigate. When doing the right thing means destroying everything you thought you knew about yourself. The room is silent, attentive. This isn't a story about revenge, I continue. It's a story about what justice looks like when you stop letting other people define it for you. I talk for 90 minutes. About the investigation, the trial, the moment I chose law over blood, the aftermath. During the Q&A, a young woman in the third row raises her hand. Do you regret it? Turning in your family? I consider the question. Really consider it. No, I say finally. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that they chose corruption. I regret that they taught me my only value was as a scapegoat, but I don't regret holding them accountable. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying their weight. I was creating my own. Another hand. A young man near the back. What would you say to someone in a similar situation? Someone who knows their family is breaking the law. I meet his eyes. See the question behind the question. I'd say you can't save people who don't want to be saved. I say, you can't fix systems that were designed to be broken. All you can do is decide who you're going to be when the choice comes. And then live with that decision. After the lecture, Dr. Kim walks me to my car. You know, she says, I watched your trial on court TV. Watched you testify against your father. I remember thinking, that's what courage looks like. It didn't feel like courage, I say. It felt like survival. The best courage usually does. She smiles. Keep doing what you're doing, Jordan. The legal profession needs people like you. People who understand that justice isn't theoretical. It's personal. It's choosing truth over comfort, evidence over loyalty. I drive home along the waterfront. The sun is setting, turning the sound into hammered gold. Ferries cut across the water, leaving white wakes that catch the light. Somewhere in Oregon, Devin is in a prison cell. Dad is in another. Mom is in the Bellevue house, alone, still telling anyone who'll listen that her children betrayed her. And I'm here, free, building cases, teaching students, living a life I defined instead of one that was handed to me. My phone buzzes. Text from Kira, dinner tomorrow. New Ethiopian place in Capitol Hill. My treat for the prosecutor who keeps making news. I smile. Text back, you're on. Then I pull up my case files. The Tacoma real estate fraud. The patterns are already emerging. Shell corporations registered in Delaware. Properties bought and sold in rapid succession. Money moving through channels designed to obscure its source. I've seen this before. I know how to build this case. I get to work. Because this is who I am now. Not the problem child. Not the scapegoat. Not the daughter who wasn't good enough. The prosecutor who chose justice. The investigator who doesn't miss details. The person who survived by becoming exactly what her family said she couldn't be. And every case I close, every conviction I secure, every truth I expose is proof that they were wrong about me. Not because I needed to prove it to them, but because I finally believed it myself. The gavel that once condemned me as the problem child became the gavel that freed me from their verdict. Justice isn't just what happens in courtrooms. Sometimes it's choosing yourself when everyone else chose against you. And that's the only verdict that ever really mattered.